Why do people wake up one day and barely recognize the life they are living? Why does time seem to pass quietly while direction slowly disappears beneath routine? Because this is not about a single decision. No, it is about what repetition becomes. This is not a message about where you are. This is a message about where you are going. And there is a difference. A delayed one, an accumulated one, and often invisible one. You see, most people, most people think in moments. One choice, one reaction, one compromise, one delay. And because each individual moment feels small, they underestimate what repetition is building. But life is rarely shaped by isolated moments. It is shaped by recurring direction. Repetition does not merely create habits. No. Repetition creates identity, creates environment, creates standards, creates tolerance, creates expectation, creates trajectory, and eventually a person no longer experiences their patterns as traces. They experience them as self. This is how people slowly arrive inside realities they never consciously selected. This happens not through one catastrophic decision, no. This happens through tolerated misalignment. It happens through repeated postponement, through negotiated standards, through familiar compromises, through rehearsed avoidance. Small permissions repeated long enough to become architecture. There is something deceptively calming about continuation, especially when consequences are delayed. You see, a person can continue tolerating, delaying, drifting, adjusting, abandoning themselves gradually. And because life does not collapse immediately, they assume the direction is safe. Oh, but delayed consequence is still consequence. Let us be exact. People often speak about destiny as though it arrives externally, unexpectedly, mystically, without participation. But much of what people call destiny is simply pattern repeated without interruption. It's not fate, it is accumulation. This, this is the hidden danger. A person rarely notices themselves changing while the changes remain incremental. The standards lower slowly. The discipline softens quietly. The self-respect negotiates politely. And one day they feel distance from themselves without remembering exactly when it began. Because drift rarely announces itself dramatically. Drift normalizes itself gradually. Many people imagine the future as something waiting ahead. Let me tell you a secret. It is not. The future is under construction now, not abstractly, no, behaviorally. You see, every repeated action says, this is who I am becoming. Every tolerated compromise says, this is acceptable. Every delayed correction says, we can continue like this. And eventually the structure believes you. The trajectory does not care what you intended once. Trajectory responds to repetition, responds to direction, responds to consistency, responds to reinforcement. That is why good intentions cannot protect a misaligned path. No. Because the path obeys movement, not desire. Many people are attached to a vision of themselves. Very few examine what they are repeatedly rehearsing. And yes, there is a difference. One exists in imagination, the other exists in embodiment. There are people still emotionally attached to futures abandoned years ago through repetition. This happens not because they consciously rejected them, no. This happens because their daily behavior stopped supporting them long ago. And eventually, the future they once imagined became incompatible with the person they kept practicing. A cartographer reveals something uncomfortable. You are not becoming what you admire occasionally. You are becoming what you repeatedly align yourself with. And that is the path. Not aspiration, repetition. And this is why small permissions matter. Small permissions matter because repetition strengthens identity. Repetition deepens familiarity. Repetition stabilizes direction. And eventually, the extraordinary feels impossible and the misaligned feels normal. Not because truth changed, no, but repetition did. People speak about the future as though it exists in some distant landscape. But beyond is not distant. Beyond is simply today, repeated, reinforced, accumulated. The future is not arriving later. The future is arriving now, in slow motion. So there comes a moment where a person must interrupt the pattern, not emotionally, no, structurally. A moment where they stop asking, what do I want eventually, and begin asking, what am I becoming through repetition? That question truly changes everything, because now the future is no longer fantasy. Now, future becomes consequence made visible. And perhaps this is a deeper truth. People do not merely need ambition, they need authorship. Because without authorship, time continues writing on their behalf, quietly, daily, without resistance. And for those who require navigation beyond what is shared here, there are forms of work not conducted in public. Access exists. You are not becoming your future someday. No. You are becoming it now. In what you repeat, in what you permit, in what you reinforce, in what you continue. Because beyond is not a distant destination. Beyond is the accumulated direction of your present life.